you for coming to our panel. Last year, we launched the V1 of Women of Cloud panel at Next. And thanks to a lot of you, it was a great success, and we all had fun, right? And then those of us who are working software, we know what happens when you get a successful V1 launch, right? You get to do an even better V2. So here we are at Women of Cloud 2.0. We have most of folks from last year's panel are back on stage with us, and we also have a couple of new wonderful women with interesting stories to tell. We're going to share with you our growth and learnings from the last year, and we also would love to hear what questions or thoughts you have on your mind. So first, we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm going to ask each panelist to tell us about your name, your role, what you do at Google, and also a favorite activity outside of work. So I can start. My name is Rae Wang. I'm a group product manager at Google. I work on Anthos, especially on identity, config, and policy management. Outside of work, I love to ski. Ines.
Hello, my name is Ines. I am a product manager with Cloud Networking. I love my job, do everything, networking, connectivities, IPs, like everything that you need to be successful in cloud. And outside of work, do laundry. And grocery shopping, that's my favorite.
Hello, I'm Grace. I'm a cloud solutions architect based out of London. I love my job because basically I'm scaling myself out of a job. Outside of work, I scuba dive.
Hi, I'm Anna Berenberg, and I've been at Google for 13 years. I'm distinguished engineer responsible for all cloud and Google load balancing and network services. And outside of work, I like knitting. I like knitting baby blankets as well as baby hats and whatever. So all my coworkers have a lot of knitting stuff done for their babies.
My name is Michelle Duffy. I manage site reliability engineering for Google's ads business. Site reliability engineering is the engineering teams that are frontline response for the premium products at Google. Everything from networking, load balancing, all the way up to serving the ads that we all love and the YouTube videos. Outside of work, I get my zen by pulling weeds.
Wow. I'm Christina Storm. I'm a UX manager at Google on the Google Cloud platform. I work very closely with Michelle on some of these things that she described in the SRE business. Externally, we talk about it mostly about DevOps. So that's what I design for. And of course, in my private time, I try to engage in designerly things. Last weekend, I learned how to print collagraphs. Ask me later what was. It was fun.
Okay, thank you. All right, now first question. It's been 8 months since we were last year on stage, right? What did we all do in 8 months? Can you tell us about a career achievement that you're proud of in the last year?
Okay, I guess I'll start. Right. So in the last year, I went from managing a group of 5 or 6 teams based in the Seattle office to running a 250-person organization that's globally distributed. That's the ads SRE team, and that was it was not a career path that I thought I would ever take. But when the opportunity was offered, I found myself interested in stepping up and trying to pushing myself to see if I could do something like that. It brought challenges, obviously, in terms of lots of people, lots of different places, lots of learning about different parts of the ads business that I didn't have to know about before. But it's been invigorating and exciting to do something at that scale.
I always believed in technology my whole life, and I paid less attention to the human interactions than most probably. And in the last year, I realized that it's the influence and working with people and earning their trust is what the most important. And my great achievement of this year was to bringing several teams together and trying to get them to build a common product instead of them building 3 different products that are basically the same. And the fascinating part of it was that the problem was not technical, the problem was human. And I pushed myself and I got humans to agree, and I'm very proud of myself for that.
So as my role, where I'm actually trying to literally scale myself out of conversations by writing solutions to tutorials, I found it very difficult sometimes to kind of let go, i.e. See your baby go out into the world. So I was really, really pleased this year that I was able to actually scale myself out of some conversations because I successfully delivered a whole suite of solutions and documentation. So now all I have to say is, go read that.
Got my own. Yeah,
Sing them.
I go. Okay. What I've been doing, I've been trying to find some sanity in all the madness in Cloud, and I've been trying to figure out how to balance out, what I love most, which is building products, and how to scale the team as well so that I can grow them, and as well, letting go some of the babies that I start and having others scaling out. And I've really been spending a lot of time on finding how to set expectations of what I'm able to do and what I'm not able to do. And, I feel sometimes in Cloud like a child in a candy store, like you want to do everything and then, you just need to focus. So I've been spending a lot of time, making sure that I can focus, making sure I can scale the team, and then that I let go certain things that I love, and then I pick some few battles that I want to focus on myself.
You gave away some babies. We burst a new one. And those?
Yeah, we're having a couple new babies that are pretty cool, very charming.
For me, last year, I doubled my team from about 35 people to about 75, roughly. And it was a big moment of learning. It was exciting, so many people, bring them in, onboard them into the work stream, and so much energy. But also, you realize, with all that excitement comes a lot of extra work and focus on that. And I learned, I think most of you know this already, but it's interesting learning it firsthand that just doubling your workforce does not mean doubling productivity, and that the culture is in the end so much more important than everything else, and that you need to really groom that and be very careful and mindful of that, and just let productivity slide for a little bit, get a breather and make sure everybody's okay and feels good about what they're doing and has a good peer mentor, and it doesn't get lost in the complexity of Google Cloud Platform, which all of you are exposed to here. And just imagine you walk into that, and you've never worked on anything like that before. What a big step that is. And so bringing like 35 user research and user design experts into that may come from other industries, is a big deal. And so for me, it was both exhilarating and sometimes also a moment of, whoa, wait a second, let's look at people first and make sure they're all fine so that they can do the best for other people.
Thank you. Some great achievements. These didn't come easy. I've watched a lot of them, getting to the achievements. They don't always look as polished as they do today. And we know the journey is as important as the destination. So now I want to ask the question, ask you to tell the audience a mistake, a failure. How did you recover? What lesson did you learn?
I'll start. I think I'll keep with that theme of, doubling the theme and mistakes you make. I think you underestimate, when you've been in the industry for a while, how comfortable you yourself get with the constant pace of change. I think also that's something that probably all of you notice, how much change is around us in the industry at large. Cloud in particular is spearheading a lot of change right now in the market, and all of us, we're trying to catch either up with it or try to get ahead of it, right? And so the learning of how to balance you as an individual in that mix of constant change, how can you hold yourself steady in that so that you are like a constant rock for the team, and they can look at you and say, hey, if Christina's okay, we'll all be fine. And that's really important to me at all times. And I think the part where you need to be very careful is that when the change gets a little too much at times, and you yourself have human feelings of, yeah, I just want to go home right now and just maybe not come to work for a couple of days. That you, maybe actually you should do that, and you come back, 3 days later and you're recharged and you can be there with your full energy again. I definitely had those moments, and I think, that you are physically totally there and emotionally as well if things get draining, and you find a way to mitigate that for yourself first, because the way you show up for your team is huge. And so that's a learning for me.
So this is kind of on a similar theme. As I said, I went from managing a local group of about 50 people to a globally distributed group of 250 people. And in the meantime, moved to California. My kids were changing around what they were doing. And so, my children are 18 and 22. I've spent almost all of my working life juggling and making trade-offs between what's the right position to balance that I should have at work, to pay attention and be present for my children, because otherwise what's the point? And this one change, one of the reasons why I took on the responsibility was, I felt, okay, they're done. They're in college or almost finished college. I can just go and do this thing for me. And what I didn't count on, and I didn't pay enough attention to, was even at this level, when you're going to make a major change, as Christine says, how you show up is really important. And I didn't allow for the need to make time for me to account for the change so that I could show up well. And I don't mean, me time as go off and go to the spa. Not that there's anything wrong with going to the spa, but just giving time and space for me to process the implications of the changes I was making and understand how that would then be, those changes were then going to be heard and felt by people in that large team, and figuring out a scalable way to be present for all of those team members, while at the same time not forgetting my poor children, who at one point went, well, you've just abandoned us in California. Anyway, so yeah, the general lesson learned, the mistake was not taking time to pay attention to implications of change on you as a person that you need to do in order to show up as a good leader.
Every time when we're comfortable at what we do and we're becoming helpful and productive and useful, it makes us feel so good. So we take on more and we again feel productive, and this is just self-feeling, feeling of being able to solve problem and help people and oh great, and then you find yourself one day that you actual burnout. And the mistake you made at that is you didn't give away stuff at the right time because it felt so useful. You felt like you're adding a value. It's not about you having a scope. It's not about you making an impact. It's about feeling useful, right? Feeling that people benefit from your knowledge. People actually, you're solving somebody's problems. But the reality is that it's the wrong thing to do. And we all have to learn, and I learned it personally the hard way, that we need to learn to step back and give away our responsibility to people, to actually the next generation of people who are wanting to take responsibility. They also wanted to be useful. And so one time somebody sent me an article that's called Giving Away Your Legacy. And in that article, the article actually about how to scale startups, but you can read it and figure out that it actually how to scale yourself also. And then in that article, it says that every time when you have that feeling of being at a peak, that's the time to give away your Lego. And that's the time to move to something bigger and challenging and so don't accumulate stuff, just move to the next. And I learned from that, and it's been good.
Sorry, I'm busily dying here. Just adding to what Anna said about the scaling and letting things go. So maybe I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so it's very hard to kind of let things go and let other people step in and take over. while you kind of focus on something else because you want them to do as good a job as somebody else. So it's my problem was really trying to make sure I didn't step in while they were figuring things out too early because I knew what needed to do so they could grow. So that was the thing that I really had to concentrate on this year because our team had grown so much. When it was smaller, it was just easy to hug all of those babies.
Yeah, so challenges here more than I can name. So I don't know where to start. I think, I've made a lot of mistakes through my career. I think in the last 4 years, 5 years, I think the biggest toll that I think I've taken as a person, it's been the work in cloud. I'm about 5 years in Google. It started when cloud was not even a thing, and we grew it with a lot of the team here. Looking back, my personal life has taken a big toll, and then you just realize at some point, and you wake up and it's like, oh, what happened? And you don't have time for friends. You have barely time for family. I have 2 small kids, and you need to think, what you're doing with your life at some point, and you need to reflect about what's important to you. And I don't think I've come to terms yet on what's really important to me. I know my job is very important to me, so that's fine too. And I think it's good to acknowledge that sometimes that's really important. But I really want to make sure I have more time for friends, and I really appreciate every single friend that has stuck with me along the way because I haven't put much back. And I know those are true friends because, they put up with a lot of crap. Anyway, what I'm learning is to find that balance. And a lot of people say, oh, you're gonna wake up one day and you're going to regret. And maybe so, but I'm also very proud of what I've achieved at work. So both are equally important to me. It's a very difficult topic, but this is what I'm struggling with every day. And I hope to find answers to that. I'll come back next year and I'll tell you what I learned.
So wait for the sequel. Okay, thank you. So we all know we have a lot of great women at work. We're great at doing more, putting in more hours, working harder, launching more products. What we're often not good at is putting our hand up for promotion, right? When it comes to time for promotion, we get shy. We think it's more important to just put our heads down and do good work. Especially, I don't know if you know, the promote process at Google is a great training ground for self-advocacy, where your boss does not promote you. You have to nominate yourself for promotion, go ask a bunch of more senior people than you to support a promotion, write long pages of articles for you, right? And then they go through this committee, which then after a while you get back the answer. So you really have to have a lot of confidence and trust yourself and motivate others to support you. It's hard, right? But I'm very proud to report that our group have done very well in it. In the last year, we've had 3 great promotions here. So Ines, so we didn't just do the work on the product, we worked on ourselves too. Ines got promoted to group product manager and more than doubled her team, right? And then we have Anna, who got promoted to the very rare and prestigious role of distinguished engineer. There aren't very many women distinguished engineers, even in the entire industry, right? And then, Michelle got promoted to SRE director for the entire ads. So basically, her team is the reason Google is still making money. So I want to ask you 3 to tell us about how did you approach your promote? How do women become more confident and more competitive, not just in the work, but in advancing your own career? And what are some of the challenges that you encounter after your scope has increased?
After I got promoted to principal engineer, which was 4 years ago, I thought that's it for me because the scope required for distinguished engineer is so huge that I just couldn't see where's the opportunities. And then we've got a new VP of networking at the time, and now he's a VP of infrastructure, Brad Calder, who came and he saw in me probably an engineer who is capable of delivering on more scope that I had at the time. And so he gave me an opportunity, and that's all it took. So he gave me opportunity after opportunity, and he believed in me, and I delivered on opportunities. And after 3 years, I apparently accumulated such a scope that one day my husband said, "Do you want to check out that description for L9? I think you're doing everything there already." I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "I think so." So I read, it's like, okay, I guess. So I'll apply then.
That's just so funny. Well done. So my path is slightly different. Like I mentioned before, so just to put this in context, in April 1997, I started at Amazon. My employee number was 201. My son was just shy of his first birthday. And yes, it was as crazy and as aggressive as you've all heard about, which means that for most of the last 22 years, I have stopped work and started work and changed jobs or changed jobs internally in companies in order to maintain some of the balance that Ines is talking about. And sometimes it's been hard because I have intentionally slowed down or not taken an opportunity because I wanted to be available with my family. And so when I started at Google in October 2011, having just taken a year to travel to backpack around the world with my kids, just highly recommend. But I started at Google in 2011 and I was intent on getting to director. And I was intent on getting to director as kind of a personal goal, like I know I want to prove to myself that I can do this. This seems like a level that I have sufficient experience and skills to be able to do this. And then I was based in the Seattle office. So for what I started in the ads world, the ads teams are based in Sunnyvale. So I both was able to leverage some really great management, like Anna says, having someone to promote my skills and sponsor my skills, which is fantastic. But I also aggressively networked and went looking for opportunities. And sometimes those opportunities landed in my lap because it was a mess and nobody else was cleaning up the mess. So I'm like, okay, well, I know how to clean up this mess, so let me go and just sort that out. And that had the consequence that you might expect. So rewards and then recommendations for promotion, or so just support for promotion because you took a mess that someone else that had been hanging around there and then cleaned it up. And then, so my promotion to director came mostly working with the work that that Christina referenced, which is the effort inside Google, inside site reliability in Google, to build a software development team, which is not our normal expertise, to build software that all of Google could use for what is known outside as the DevOps function. And so I had to agitate to get involved in that project because really they were screwing it up. And I sort of put my hand up and said, let me help you sort this out here. And then I worked pretty tirelessly and traveled aggressively for 18 months to get that team started, to bring my knowledge from what like ads as an internal customer, a pretty significant internal customer needed from that product suite. We still have a really great partnership. And then I didn't have to ask for people to write the one page, please support me. It was, well, what do you mean you're not director already? So that's kind of, it's been rewarding. But to the second part of Rae's question, I've learned so much since getting at that level because it's a different job and I'm not doing it very well. So I have a whole nother set of experiences and skills to learn at this new level because my job is now very different.
Right. First of all, I'm about to reveal the best kept secret about Google promotion. So
we now need to know.
Yeah, now it's going to be out there. So what happens at Google is that, when you like your job, you're an achiever, and like all these ladies around here, what happens is that they push you to do more, and then they give you more. And then you just want to do the best, and then you just keep working, and then they'll see you're actually delivering, so okay, they'll give you more. And then they'll push you, and then okay, they'll give you more. And therefore, you just can run, and then get promoted. You'll need some sponsorship, somebody to believe in you. You need to clean up a lot of mess. But if you're doing all that, then you're going to get promoted. I think as well, the other challenge is to find like where you want to go. Like, because it comes to a point in which everything comes with a price. And I think all, like promotions, and they look very flashy, but it is a lot of hard work. And some of the prices that come with it is something that, you need to interiorize and think like, what is that you want to do, what you enjoy. So like, it comes a point in which you need to find what's right for you. And, not always more is better. And then I found like there's some balance there as well that you need to find for yourself. But having said that, yeah, the recipe of, hard work, sponsorship, clean up mess works. That's it.